Hi, I'm Sam Blank. Welcome to the show today. I have the honor of interviewing Alex Schmidt here at Parent Company Gallery. Come on in. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and those in between. I'm Sam Blank. Today I am joined by Alex Schmidt. Alex, your work spans performance, social engagement, text, and painting. You use improvisation, relationality, and humor. Your work covers the precarity of the gig economy, the paradox of choice, and social connection as a conduit for change. You earned a BA in art history from Reed College and an MFA in new genres from Hunter College. You have shown and performed at MoMA PS1, the Leslie Lohman Museum, Duplex NYC, the New Museum, Visual Aids, and now Parent Company Gallery. You are a current Independent Study Program Fellow at the Whitney Museum. Alex, thank you for being here with us today. How are you feeling?
I feel good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you initially earned a BA in art history, then it was followed by studies in improv. Did your shift to performance precede the improv, or did the improv lead you into performance?
I mean, I think like many theatrical kids, I did a lot of plays in grade school, and I did improv for a little bit, but like studying art history at Reed, I was mostly writing about and studying performance art. And I thought I was going to be the performance curator at MoMA. That was my career plan. And then I started working in the art world in New York, and it wasn't a fit. And that was when I started taking the improv classes. So it wasn't like I was shocked to be in that place, but maybe it was like, you know, I'd tried both sides of the computer. So chicken or the egg.
Mm-hmm. So you had graduated intending to be a curator in art history.
Yeah.
Was there a breaking point that made you say, I want to make it instead of talk about it?
Yeah, I did a lot of internships after graduating. At Reed, I wrote about Ryan Trecarton and like organized our performance festival and worked at TBA, the like time-based art festival there. So I was like really like producing performance art. Mm-hmm. And I was doing improv in college too. The group is called Felicio Rodriguez. And I like quit that to focus on art history. And then I did internships at like the Chinatown Foundation and Mattress Factory and here at Studio Museum in Harlem and Art Production Fund. And at a certain point was just like, this is actually like, once I realized the kind of like, that I would just be at a computer full time, like working for other people's art, it felt less artful, I guess, than, you know, like watching a family finds entertainment on loop. It was less of that and more of emails. And I actually started teaching preschool at that time. I like quit working in that way and started teaching preschool because I fully had like a break where I was like calling my mom at 3 a.m. in the morning being like, I can't do this. And then when I did this web series, Sad Girls Club in like 2016 or something, that's when I met some of my collaborators and was like, wait, they're so funny and this is so fun and cool. I also got braces. That was a big turning point, is I had to get really intense jaw surgery and braces. And then I started making these YouTube videos. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, it's not a neat line. And I was already like in 7th grade dressing up as like an elevated train track to do history plays. So it's not as if I was just fully like nerd, like She's All That moment where I'm like, wait, I want to be in the spotlight. But I think, you know, I like both because I do love other people's performances and comedy.
Your work often centers camp as a key element. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that your queer identity draws you to camp, or are there other influences that push you in that direction?
I literally teach camp as a professor, and I still don't fully know what it is. I don't think anyone fully knows. But what I like about camp is it's like the roast. It's making fun of something from a place of really deep love. And I know that straight people are capable of that, but there might be I guess I'm thinking, I don't know. I didn't come out until I was like 27. And I liked Now and Then and I loved the movie Junior so much as a child that I had a full-on tantrum because they wouldn't let us watch it. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think queerness, I think everybody's gay and, you know, it's all like messy. And it's just like who's found a way to love and laugh in the same breath more than anything. Like, I love John Candy. He was probably straight. But have you seen Uncle Buck?
I don't think so.
He makes a pancake that's this big. I don't know. It's like, yeah. I'm from Chicago. I think Chicago really likes that kind of like mixture of like being hilarious, but also just being cozy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if it's about just like the gay side of it, because I'm not like crazy about like Provincetown drag queens or something. I really like laughing and loving.
Which, speaking of drag queens in other places, you were
yes.
You were the queen for a day of the Ice Palace in Cherry Grove.
Yeah.
Before I go on to my next question, can you talk about what it was like being queen for a day?
Yeah, this is actually, I need to like in my bio preface, it should come before the Whitney. It was a crazy experience. Okay, so I've been going to Cherry Grove every summer for a few summers in a row with a group of friends. And then I have some friends in the Pines. So I love walking through the meat rack and like hoping I'll see gay guys fucking, and I never do. Because there's this like, for those who don't know, there's this like brambly, kind of like the scene in Beauty and the Beast where she's like stuck in there on the chariot, but like doesn't know which road. That's the meat rack. So I went over to the Pines to go visit my friends, Sydney Fishman, the one that talked to me about performance, and Candy Store, who I probably met through Sydney, but also have performed with at Leslie Lohman. She's an amazing poet, performer, hosts actually speaking of reality TV event at Parkside about Dilf Manor that I hosted. So, you know, that kind of a show I love. I went over there, and I think it was like there was a tea party, and that's why I went by, and I bought like a little book. She just had come out with her book. I don't know, I can't remember the title. And I was like, can we sign it? Or like, will you sign it? And I got it, and then she was like, wait, do you realize there's this competition for like drag queens? You would win it. And I was like, get out of here. And she was like, it's happening in 2 hours, let's go. And I was like, kind of just in that vacation, like gay heaven mode of like, this is community, like we're making books, we're walking through forests. And we got on the ferry. I texted my friends. I didn't know this, but most of them took E, which is why they were like in such a good mood when we were there. Because Candy Store was like, the rules are bring your own shoes because your feet are small, and bring a lot of friends so that you have like a lot of crowd support. And then we got there, and there's like it's like a speed competition where you like put on your makeup, and that bearded queen, that's her Instagram handle, and Jackie, what's her name?
It's Jackie Cox, right?
Jackie Cox hosted. Yeah. And I'd like literally just watched her season, so I was also starstruck. I mean, I know I forgot her last name, but I'm just not good with names. But it was incredible. It was the biggest high of my life. I won $300 cash. I've never been that high. I didn't take E, but I mean, adrenaline wise. I
looked at the photo of you when you won. You looked like you were...
It was crazy. It was really crazy and really special, and I owe it all to Candy Store. Yeah. So I identify as I am part of the House of Store.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice for future queens for a day as a former reigning?
Yeah. I did hear that they've like ended the competition. I know Candy Store eventually did win as well. And then eventually, that sounds savage, but I think it is over. I think it is no more. I don't know why, which is sad. I mean, I still go to Ice Palace a lot to see Busted, that's maybe my favorite non-Rue queen. But I also do love Alaska. We got to see her perform this summer. I think that really embodying a song, like, that felt like the biggest, the biggest thing that maybe Candy Store told me to do this too, I don't remember, but it's like, it is about the reveals, so layers. Have like a lower layer that's like the slutty layer, have a medium layer that's like the surprise layer, and then have your like robes or whatever on top. So then you can pace it out through second verse opens, you reveal a layer, bridge, you reveal the layer, and then finale, song.
I want to ask you about one more of your social engagement things. I want to ask about queer speed cruising.
Yeah.
I was very interested in that when I was researching.
Queer speed cruising is a project I ran for a few years with Lily Murata. Our last one was scheduled for like March 11th, 2020. So we did go ahead and cancel that. It was going to be a Portrait of a Lady on Fire themed. And we were hosting them mostly at the Windjammer, but we did some at like Leslie Lohman and I don't know, maybe a couple other places. Usually there would be a theme, more so for our PR and for our own fun. Like we did one where we were like did a poster based on Chelsea Girls by Eileen Miles, and we did one based on like Coyote Ugly. But it's really strange because at the time, and still, like, we were both partnered. It was almost like some kinky way of like getting other people like love or something. Like neither of us were hosting it because we wanted to find partners. We just both like, I think, enjoy matchmaking and being yentas. And we sort of like, I think our first one was at a Personals, which is now Lex, like launch party or something. So we just like, it was also maybe like a sneaky way to make a platform for us to do like a comedy set that no one was actually there to watch. But it was literally speed dating, but we kind of framed it as cruising because I think like people are most likely to find their lovers by like meeting someone who knows someone who knows someone. So you're like not cruising in the way that like gay men cruise, which is like eye contact and flagging, but cruising like this kind of nebulous, fluid, porous type of socializing where you're just putting out that you're looking for something and like letting it like contaminate a little past like a more classic like first date or something like Tinder. So it seemed like if you could meet like 30 people and be like, I'm looking for a Virgo, like eventually you'd find one. Maybe there was like 1 to 2 successful matches that didn't last. So I wouldn't say it was so much like helping people find marriage, but it was really fun. And it was, I will say, very femme heavy, which just in terms of ratios became challenging. Femmes for but, you know, if all the femmes that were there wanted femmes, it would have been fine. But unfortunately, we were always experiencing kind of a lack of butch attendance because they don't really go to. That's just, yeah.
They don't really go.
They don't go. They don't go.
So that queer speed cruising was focused on relations, and when I was researching you, the word relationality came up. Can you define relationality for the viewers and talk about your interest in it?
Yeah. My main mentor of mine from MFA is Miguel Gutierrez, and he said like your medium is relationships. Like I think if you like think about my answers to these questions, there's always like 10 citations within an answer, and it's not because of like wanting to for me, it doesn't come from a place of like humble bragging about knowing people, but of being like, no, like any answer I have is coming out of this like network, like literally Alice's chart, but for how we become a person, Alice from the L Word. Like this brain map of relationships and references. Some people I know, some people I've just seen their work. It feels like I know them. And I think that way of thinking it's just like inherent to me, and it's a huge part of my politics, is like not seeing ourselves as individual geniuses that need to like elbow our way to a place, because I actually just, it's very rising tide raises all ships, but also you know, like I'm from the Midwest. My mom would always tell us like a major, like number one rule as a kid is everybody plays together. There's no like you get to click up with your friends upstairs and like your little sister has to be alone. It's like we all just do this together, and I think that's actually how the world works. If I like make a selfish choice to benefit myself, it impacts other people. And I think it's hard to remember that sometimes, or to hold space for that, because there is so much scarcity. And I guess in my experience, all these projects like Queer Speed Cruising, Sad Girls, like all these collaborative projects have just like made my life and my work so much richer. And I understand that being like, I guess as like a teacher, I feel like a lot of my students, because of COVID, were so isolated during a really formative social time. And I really want to teach them that like being relational, which just means like kind of prioritizing relationships over personal like tunnel. It's just like, it doesn't make, it's not like you're a better person, or like, it's not like it's better, like in a Christian way. I just actually think it's like selfishly, like it is better. It's more fun. And it like, I think something I did group therapy for a couple years, and it ended up going kind of off the rails at a certain point. But one of the most powerful things that I learned from it is like literally like isolation causes depression. The antidote to depression is connection. It's like that simple. When you're fighting with people about being right, when you're really concerned about being right, then, excuse me, when you're focused on being right over connecting, you're like kind of missing the point, which is just like usually we just want to be understood, we want to be loved, we want to connect. And it selfishly, I'm like fine with people being radical from a selfish place. I actually think it's better because it's more sustainable. Just like telling yourself you're like doing this for other people is, you'll get burnt out. But if you can do it from a place of like, no, this is gonna make my world better, that's true. It'll drive the work that you do, and it literally will. It's like why people are always like volunteer. It feels good. Not just to help people, but to connect with people and remember that you're part of an organism. You're connected. I think that is relationality, like really moving through the world like you are connected to people through this like web. And when you take, it's other people are moving with you. So yeah. Even if you don't see yourself as a relational person, you are, you just don't see it.
So your performance also spans song. Songs like The Way, with lyrics such as, the way I like to love you is when I'm getting paid. The way I love to kiss you is when it's for a grade. I only have so much time, I live it towards the dime. Can you talk about how song became a part of your practice?
Yeah. I'm definitely somebody that's always like written jingles while I'm biking around just for fun. And my best friend from high school, Allison Trumbo, I like send her a birthday song every year where I make up a song. Like it's like I like making up songs, and I also memorize songs really fast, like pop songs. I listen to like mostly pop music.
Are you able to sing a couple bars for us? I think one of them could maybe beatbox for you if needed.
Maybe I could have a little sip of water.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Please.
Okay.
We can take a quick break and get you ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna take a quick break and then come back and sing. Welcome back, everybody. The instrumental has loaded now. I'm here with Alex Schmidt, gonna sing The Way for us on this lovely banana microphone.
Hey, need to wipe your ass.
And I'm always intrigued by the unique jobs that artists have along their nonlinear path. One of the ones that you had was you were the narrator for a book called Diquette, a novel by Jenny Fran Davis. Can you just talk about that experience? Clearly you have a beautiful voice, so
Thank you.
Reading must have been easy.
You know, it's actually an endurance art. Making my voice sound good. I do have a really beautiful voice. But it turns out that reading nonstop for like 5 days in a row is really physically exhausting. And physically, my throat was tired, and I was spending every night like steaming over a hot pot. But Jenny is my very, very close friend, and the book may or may not be in some ways inspired by aspects of my life. Dyke soccer is mentioned in the book. And I love the book, and I begged to read it. For the audiobook. I've always wanted to narrate an audiobook. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I feel that I don't appreciate audiobooks that sound like they're read by AI, which is what a lot of books sound like, and a lot of books literally just are at this point read by AI. And so I was like, can I please read the book as though like I'm gossiping, like in the tone that I'm gossiping in, rather than like, she went to the like just try to read it more as a personality, as camp, rather than as a robot. And that's like the style of audiobook I like to listen to too.
This is an official ad and request for proposal for Alex to read your book.
LGBTQIA plus content and straight erotica.
But any gay content, only straight erotica, or only straight erotica.
Yeah, I don't think I guess I would do Sally Rooney. Does she do gay? She does.
I have no idea.
Queer. I'll just take your book. Send me your books. Yeah.
Do you get royalties from it when people buy it?
I don't in this. Yeah. My like childhood best friend Louise Kashivaya was my agent. She's an agent, and she really tried to do that, and they were just like, that's really not a thing as like an audiobook narrator that's never narrated before, and that frankly we didn't. You know, we're doing you a bit of a favor, potentially. So no royalties for me, but I was paid. Yeah.
Were there any notable odd gigs that you've done that you would share?
Yeah. I exploded confetti out of a cannon at a Little Kim opening ceremony event. That is maybe like one of my favorites. I dog sat like all over Marfa, and one of the houses was this like glass cube overlooking the desert. I don't remember the dog's name, but it was for some architects. I've been a nanny for and a tutor for so many people, and that has sent me I've been flown to Palm Beach to do that and run their Halloween party. And what else? I mean, this is like my favorite. I feel like I sometimes take jobs just for the sake of being able to say like, it's crazy, I just did this crazy job. So, yeah, those are some tops, but like, if the job is crazy and pays crazy, I'm in. I mean, yeah, money's money.
Yeah, as evident by The Way.
Yeah.
In your MFA thesis, you mentioned my painting and performance approaches embody the spirit of spontaneous lyrical composition. I could definitely see that in the performance work. I'm curious about the lyrical nature of your paintings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's something people say when they look at them. I don't know what, like, paintings feel to me like a lot more outside language, at least outside my capacity for language. So that's just kind of me regurgitating something people have said about the paintings. Mm-hmm. But I think part of it, maybe part of what feels like there's like musicality, is that there's a lot of layers of different rehearsals and moments, and there's like a floating, like a desire to have like a tension or a floating, like not a stable ground or like a clear representation, like, but something that feels a little loose, the way that you can hear a song a few different ways. Those are at least the songs I like to write. And that maybe there's like different places to enter, but I don't have like a ton of language around painting, and definitely not around my own painting. Yeah.
I personally, with your paintings, I'm really captivated by the way you depict space in the backgrounds of your work. Your paintings feature vibrant, painterly backgrounds with visible brushstrokes, and I'm just wondering, as a performance artist who, you know, your job is to actively occupy space, how do you approach space in these paintings?
The paintings are often, if not almost always, reflective of layers of performances and rehearsals. So I do think at this point I'm kind of like crafting performances I want to paint, and painting aspects of the performance that stood out to me. And I do like these like empty minimalist expanses, like in Francis Bacon's paintings or in Autumn Night's performances, like where there is a lot of space. I think there can be more room for tension than this like maximalist filling in details and content. And I definitely used to be someone that wants to fill in everything of everything. Like I was doing like embroidery and like kind of like rug tufting, these like things that are very like sensory and filling every corner. But I think in the performances, when there's a song and when there's some lighting and then like a few key props, that's a lot. For me, that's enough and a lot. And the paintings that I look at and love, I think, have a similar relationship to like, I don't know, like a similarly open expanse. Thinking about like Hopper. Yeah.
And so your work spans multiple mediums in a way that feels almost fractal, distinct pieces yet all connected by a deeper pattern. How does that impulse I see in your art show up in other areas of your life?
Like probably the main one is just like being sort of chronically busy and having a lot of piles in my apartment. Having a very chaotic sense of style that, like, you could never say that from looking at one outfit, but like if you went into my closet, you'd be like, what gender is this? I think having a lot of different relationships with people that weren't necessarily overlapping in one social world, and kind of like having a sort of, I mean, a lot of the songs touch on this, but like feeling really two strong feelings that are opposing about one thing often. Mm-hmm. Like I really strongly am able to empathize with multiple points of view and see many points. And I don't feel very, I'm not a particularly consistent person in that way. Even though I think like there's like an overarching desire to like leave the world better than I found it or something. How to get there feels way less clear, and I'm pretty clunky as I try to find it. Maybe some people would be like ADD, but I think it's just like we live in a chaotic world. I think it was really wild to like feel this kind of like infinite mirror effect happening of like, because you're not, I mean, I am the same, like if I'm in therapy, if I don't turn off like self-view, I'm like watching myself in therapy, but you're also like watching a person, if you keep the self-view on, watching a person watch you, watch yourself, like it starts to be like, is anyone even making eye contact with anyone anymore? And I also felt like a lot of people during the pandemic were, just like, you're not showing up in the places where you get to show up and be seen. And I was like overexposed, like literally like labia exposed at times. And so I was feeling like kind of out of sync with like a lot of how other people were feeling, because I was so overexposed and talking to so many people and seeing all these drawings of myself. But it also, I guess, especially when it was like really, when I had a lot of energy, like after like a year of it, I got like tired. But when I had a lot of energy for it, it really felt like I was just like a conduit for a thing that just needed to happen. And it was really a lot of people's, at least this is just their words, like a lot of people's outlet for a desire to like it felt like my body was a body that people were embodying through. It felt like people were having a really hard time being in their bodies, and I was being a body they could be a body through. And that doesn't mean everybody wanted to be inside my body or felt that way, but like a lot of people I think were able to make work from that place, and it was just kind of like a trippy experience. And then adding on to it, dressing up in like different characters and embodying other personas allowed me to do that through like a lens of not being myself. Like I wasn't like Alex Schmidt doing that. I was like Alex as Sarah Lucas, and kind of able to like slip around all these different perspectives. So it like there is narcissism and vanity in like just seeing yourself on a screen or like seeing yourself in other people's drawings, but I got to like LARP more than just post selfies. If I don't need a category. But it is confusing when you have to like tell your parents you're gonna bring home like someone with tits to Thanksgiving, and then you have to go through this whole thing, and they were totally fine about it. But my brother was like, what percentage gay are you?
Real?
They like math, they like medical, like they want to know. And I'm like, gender is fake for all of you. Like, so that's more where I'm at. There's some cute / hot cis guys out there, and sometimes their politics make sense and they take up a reasonable amount of space, and I'm happy to know them.
Yeah, let's take us out. Let's punctuate with the banana.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. That was exquisite. Thank you for singing for us.
Yes.
And giving a thesis on gender and how we're all just bodies.
We're barely even bodies.
Yeah. Where can the people find you online?
So you can find me on Instagram at Body Confidence, on the web at bodyconfidence.org. And I wonder what my TikTok is. I don't really use her, but
that's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll find our way.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you next week, and goodbye.
Bye.